Hello. Welcome to Hegemony Revealed. All those who are here and watching on the replay, thank you for joining us, Garry, Shahana, and myself, Tree. We are here to reveal what we can. 2024 is the year of the reveal. I'm sorry. I don't care what it is. It's whether it is metaphysical, spiritual, political. There's no more hiding this crap.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You just said it.
End of show, Shahana.
End of it. It's over. It's been said and done and sealed.
See you guys later. Oh my gosh. Wow.
The wrapping is the wrapping has been so badly ripped off.
It's shocking. It's not shocking. It's exciting and yet terrifying at the same time.
It's like dark comedy, It is like
yes.
It reminds me of Godot, which was never coming, has suddenly arrived.
Yeah, it's an episode of Black Mirror. I never watched it, but even everybody keeps saying it's like this.
And it suddenly arrived. It wasn't supposed to.
Isn't it interesting? Because you've both spoke about this before. Think about The Matrix. Think about Black Mirror. All of these signals put into our consciousness that most people haven't seen. Oh, yeah. It's now like, oh, you's on about real life, right?
What is going on? See, that it's always a buffering. It's always they gotta seed it in order for the consciousness not to break. That's what I think. They want us to be pliable and not go into canatonia, because then we can't produce. But I think we're flipping the script on them. I think a lot of people are flipping the script.
Yeah, and the weirdest part is, you have the script. You can see that people are completely seen through the entire fairy, the facade and all the illusions and the propaganda and all of that is revealed. And then you have the same people in power, the unipolar hegemonic power, still repeating the same thing.
Don't they sound ridiculous?
Expecting different results, because that is a sign of madness. Doing the same thing and expecting different results. But they're still doing the same thing. And they expect people to suddenly unsee what has been seen. I mean, take a Blinken or a Biden or a Sunak or whatever their names are. They just, merge into this one figure for me. The names don't matter really. They could just be echoing each other and whatever. The point is, by now, as people with a modicum of brain, hopefully some gray cells, would have realized that repeating the same thing will not make a difference. So change the story. Accept the narrative that is right in front of you. Show some level of intelligence. I mean, right now they're behaving like dumbstruck zombies, stuck on a record player. The old record would get stuck and keep playing the same thing.
Yeah. But can you get a narcissistic person or to see the truth, to see themselves?
You know what never ceases to marvel or surprise me? How did all the narcissists of the world get together? I mean, call it a birds of the feather flock together syndrome. Like, how?
They're vibrating at the same frequency, Shahana. They have the same aims. They have the same goal. They don't see outside this sphere of fear and control.
But you
So
know what the tragedy is? This narrative has brainwashed generations, and
mhm,
those generations, whoever, the current younger ones are getting out of it. The
mhm,
older ones who are, in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s upwards, maybe even 45, 50s upwards, are really struggling with
I
what
know.
they are seeing, that cognitive dissonance of what they thought themselves and their civilization to be, and what the world is telling them that they are not. So it's like, it's a huge cognitive dissonance. If it's like I were to collapse this whole thing, say, into my family, and I know my family comes from, I know, never mind the reality, I know that my family comes from a background of philanthropy, doing good and taking care of the village. We are the zamindars and we are really the good people. And then suddenly someone shows me the mirror of what my father and grandfather and great grandfather and great great grandfather did throughout to really build that temple and that pond and that library, and the people that they dislodged and the people that they displaced, and those poor villagers, how they turned into beggars and how some of them died.
Mhm,
It's going to be dissonance.
mhm,
And that's precisely what I feel the Western world is in absolute cognitive dissonance, clinging on to the old story desperately, hoping it's true, but knowing it's not.
mhm,
Oh, it
mhm,
is. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in their place at all.
mm,
It
mm.
unless you are totally without conscience, which is a handful, like 1% on the top, the rest of the people are struggling to get into their heads that our civilizational narrative of progress was built on a myth. The people we thought we were civilizing didn't want to be civilized the way we thought it. They
No,
didn't want us in their countries.
even worse that the people they were trying to civilize were already civilized and they were uncivilized.
It
Exactly,
is.
exactly. I mean, if I, and I've recommended some books in my writing. When I read and I know my history, I mean, imagine a bunch of European traders who don't know shit about India coming to a 3,000-year-old civilization full of riches and grandeur and palaces and jewels and spices and handicraft and industries that they've never seen in their entire whatever life, going berserk because there is just so much of riches, and then thinking they can civilize. I mean, look at the girl of it, and look at the ignorance, and look at the utter stupidity. Then, of course, the story of civilization and progress had to be built in. But now I'm thinking of the generational dissonance of the
Mm.
people who believed they actually went and civilized, to be told, you were unwelcome in the first place. Then you stole our land. You turned our people into cheap labor. You stole our
Mm.
resources. Industrial revolution was built on our wealth. So go figure. I mean, it's not a pretty place to be in, is what I'm feeling. I mean, I would
Mhm.
hate to be in that place. It is so painful for people of conscience to admit that we sucked and we've been lied to, and we have propagated those lies on behalf of an empire which is actually the axis of evil.
Yeah, Gary,
Shucks.
I see you teetering
I'm
on there.
just.
Tell me.
I'm teetering because I just thought it was a beautiful. I was teetering on what Shahana just said, Trina, around you talk around generational trauma, right?
This
But
Mm-hmm.
I've
is
not
it.
heard the phrase generational dissonance
This is.
before
Mm-hmm.
This is
in the
it.
way that Shahana just said. And I think there's a really interesting marriage between those two things, right? Which is actually
Absolutely.
stay in trauma. You don't have to face what's actually going on,
Yeah.
right? You don't necessarily want to stay there, but actually the reality, the mirage, the veil, yeah, the hegemony being revealed is traumatic because suddenly it's
Oh,
like, oh God, it's not binary. It's not
no.
actually like what I've been told. I've been conditioned with. So I just love that interplay between generational trauma and generational dissonance. I think there's a lot of goodness to explore in that area somehow.
And there are generations existing with the dissonance currently, which is where you see this denial, absolute denial of the narrative.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And
forget the
it's
propaganda,
cognitive.
forget
Yeah.
BBC and CNN and their bullshit. They're crap anyways. No one believes
Yeah.
them. But
No, nobody believes them, and they never because they very much like the field of psychology were created to explain away oppression and abuse, and
yeah,
to justify trauma. On this really quickly on that interplay. I talk to people all the time about disassociation as a coping mechanism, and that's what I see in every realm, every ism. There's the coping mechanism of disassociation, meaning you change the internal narrative in your head in a particular way so that you do not have to deal with your choices, consequences, or the pain of what has happened to you or what you have done to others. You disassociate. That's not me.
and it's unresolved trauma, right? If we even go
Mm-hmm.
back to the Holocaust as an incident, I mean, there have been
Yeah.
many Holocausts all over the world not recorded because they were not done to white people. But
Oh,
even if we take the
goodness.
Holocaust as one incident, there is so much unresolved trauma there. I mean, there might be museums in Berlin and there might be, all kinds of things. But no one has actually, at least I don't know if anyone has actually sat down and accepted the trauma that the Europeans inflicted on the Jewish people.
How
And
could they?
that's
How could
it.
they?
They
How
couldn't
could
because
they?
it's Europeans killing Europeans.
Yeah, and they won't. How could they, especially when at one moment, this horrible thing, and I can put the story of chattel slavery into this as well, when at one point the people are using it as a tool for victimization and control at the
Yeah,
same
it
time.
is. It is.
So Israel is finally being called out for their use, their false use, Zionists using the Holocaust as an excuse to
Yep.
take land, to brutalize, indigenous people, and say, well, if you say this we're bad, then you're anti-Semitic.
Yep.
If you say what we're doing is wrong, then you're anti-Semitic. We're the victims.
So the funny part there is when they call Europeans anti-Semitic, any European or an American or a US, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming from a very Asian perspective, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't affect us because we've never treated Jews badly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a European American guilt, and that guilt has been projected onto the Arabs as they are anti-Semitic because it's not Arabs who are anti-Semitic, it is the Europeans, it's the Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
when the Holocaust happened, and this is recorded history, it is
Mm-hmm.
it is Europe and US and UK who didn't want the Jews in their countries. So
Mm-hmm.
they had to flee the Holocaust and come to Israel or Palestine, then as it was called, because they had
Well,
nowhere else to go.
I have
So
a very interesting tidbit that I just learned about that as well,
yeah,
which
and
is,
they caught in the trap of their own guilt, which they're projecting onto someone else. This is,
mm-hmm.
absolute Jungian psychology of projection. And then it's like like the rapist calling the other person rapist because hey, otherwise I will be found guilty. It's
Oh yeah.
exactly that. And then you have this actual trauma being used, weaponized by a handful of very powerful people in Europe and America to gain land, which sits at the nexus of oil gate, so that they can have
Mm-hmm.
access to fossil fuel energy for as long as our civilization lasts. Now,
Yeah.
till then. So
Well, you
it's
know, the
such a
colonization of
tragedy.
the colonization of Palestine started before World War II.
Yeah,
That's the
it
part that
started with her.
blew. It started before that. It started right after. Here's what I've found out, which is because I've been on this. I've been going down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out what's the deal.
So
Why were
yeah,
Jews so oppressed, hated throughout? I mean, history. We're not just talking about.
yeah,
Um, we're not talking about just the 1900s. We're talking about in BC. Okay, we're talking in antiquity, and of course there are the trope. There are the things about business dealings, how they deal with people, and things like that. And of course, there's the jokes about the Jewish lawyers and all that kind of things. But what I found interesting on my deep dive is that during World War I, uh, Britain and Germany were fighting, of course. It was between the two. And Germany was just about to win. And I guess there was a group of pretty powerful Jews. Um, I don't know if this is the Zionist Jews or not. I wasn't sure. But they went to to Britain and said, "Hey, don't give up. We're going to get the U.S. involved, but you have to help us take the land in Palestine."
no, it
That's the
happened.
deal.
Yeah,
That's the
and there
deal.
it even started earlier, around 1878 or
Yeah.
1890,
Yeah.
with Herzl going
Yeah.
from power to power, looking for a land. And this had nothing to do with the Holocaust. This had nothing to do with anything.
Nothing.
They were looking for a land around that area, so that on which they could build a Jewish nation. He didn't find
Hmm.
anyone. He went to the head of the Ottoman Empire, who completely rejected it. He said, "I'm not dividing up my land. The land is not mine. I don't own it. We don't sell and give our land. We
Right.
belong to the land. The land doesn't
That's
belong to us."
that's narcissistic in itself.
Yes. So we belong to the land. And so Herzl didn't get any press over there, but he had by then made friends within Britain and within, within the European empires to
Right.
push that keep. And at that time, Britain befriended him, thinking they could be our partners because Britain was already the colonial power in that region
Hmm.
and owned
Hmm.
Egypt and other parts of the Arab world. So in 1917, Lord Balfour, signed a treaty saying this land belongs to you. So basically, here comes Britain, a European power, a colonial power, taking brown people's land, giving it to another bunch of white people, land that doesn't belong to you, and saying now you can build your, your
Yeah.
empire, your Jewish state here. And then 1922 comes League of Nations, merely ignoring that people already exist on that land, people who are Arabs and Palestinians.
Hmm.
No, I mean, they said so clearly that every citizenship right, all the rights went to the Israelis in that declaration, the League of Nations, which was anything but a League of Nations. It was a bunch of crooks writing down some bullshit.
Right.
And
Exactly.
just like that, they just stormed into this place, took away the land, and claimed it as theirs, completely ignoring the indigenous population there. And this guy went so far as to say that it is, I'm forgetting the name of the guy, but he went so far as to say the fate of 700,000 Palestinians hardly matter. It is so very much more important to have an Israeli Jewish nation over there. The rest
Well,
can basically
they're
go to
the
hell.
only. It's the only place that's been able to make a state an ethnic state, and that's it's absolutely criminal that
Yeah,
that's even being allowed. And right now, I love what South Africa is doing,
Hmm.
and what
absolutely.
I love what,
Absolutely.
yeah, and South Africa knows what apartheid is. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
and I know that there is a lot of influence and sway from the U.S. in the courts, Geneva, but I think that this is done. I think this is done, and I
If
think that
ICJ can't pass a proper resolution, it might as well cease to exist.
yeah, If they can't,
They can
it's
just
going to
dissolve themselves as well.
yeah, because we can already see the UN was useless,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, so to stop this, and it's almost like they're all just waiting until it's until everything is plowed through, and then they'll go, oh, we have to cease fire now that everything is out of the way
There's
for them
nothing
to
left.
do nothing left for them to do what they want to do. So it's disgusting. It's disgusting. But and it's so important
And
that we continue as a collective
yeah,
to speak up, because this could happen to any of us
Yeah.
at any time.
I mean, if today ICJ, God forbid, passes a resolution in favor of Israel, tomorrow US and the gang, their mafia gangs, can storm any country in the world in the global south and say, hey, this land has lots of bauxite, let's take it, grab, it's ours. This
Yeah.
land has a lot of, minerals we need for our green transition, so let's take it.
This is such an important point, Johanna. So when I caught up with Lorraine the other day as well, so Lorraine Smith does a lot of work around,
yes.
corporate disclosures, the sustainability reporting, Trina,
Yes.
etc. And she made us aware of Glencore, one of the largest mining companies on the planet. They, in their 2022 sustainability report, there's an excerpt, because she reads these things day in, day out.
Yes.
And it says, but in no uncertain terms, we increased our profits by over 30 billion the year before, 30 billion the year before, due to something like the benefits of conflict in XYZ region. Like, it's even being put in sustainability reports.
Why do you think Sudan is being wiped out? Why do you think Sudan is being wiped out? What is happening to DRC? Democratic Republic of Congo, it's wiped out because of what lies beneath their soil.
Yeah.
100%. But the madness, and it's why, like, literally the madness, the disconnection to self, others, and the planet, that someone thought it was okay to put something even remotely like that into the public, like just a complete disembodiment, to not connect those dots.
Yeah, because there's such a huge disconnect. They're inhumane. There's no connection to humanity. There's no connection to the fact that everything is living, everything is vibrating, everything is supposed to live in balance. It's
even beyond.
I know it's beyond. I struggle to find words. That's why I'm stumbling. I can't find words that haven't already been said.
Yeah. Because if I'm not mistaken, a little bit of deep diving that I've been doing, the entire education system, and Garry, you can enlighten us on this much better, the entire education system in the global north is so structured that people undergoing that system cease to see colored people as equal. They actually cease to see colored people as equal.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know how it is done.
From very early on.
And I don't even know how it's done, because thankfully I haven't undergone that system. But even people who go from global south and have been living there for, let's say, a few generations, a couple or 3 generations, they lose that sense of touch that people of other skin colors than white and pink are human beings. They just lose it. And I have no idea what is done, because after a point I start pitying the people who lose their sense of humanity, and I wonder how they go through their own lives and entire lives living a distorted vision of themselves. But I don't know what is done, and that is what is this fulcrum on which their civilization is hanging by a thread, a fake narrative.
Trina, I want to come to you, but put it in perspective. 2024 right now, go and look at any MBA, Masters of Business, like the advanced business education. You'll see nothing in there around decolonization or real sustainability or land back or wealth back or sharing power. There'll be nothing like that in the education. It'll just be about M&A, acquisitions, growing more, taking over more companies. Like, there is no shift in education at all.
No. And the thing is that I keep looking for the shift, and I don't see it. I still don't see it happening. I keep looking for the fact, some people, even what we're doing, even what I do, I'm always so hesitant to be involved to a certain extent, because I'm not into the capitalism game. I can't stand it. I really can't. I can't stand that we live in a society, a global structure, that all it does is consume, consume, consume. And the only way that you can survive in it is to consume, consume, consume. You know, it makes it so hard to be sustainable, you know? And then once people start like boycotting, the audacity of them to try to pass some type of legislation that says you can't boycott against Israel or any of its entities. The audacity of it to it's to take away our freedom of choice is just, it's psychopathic. It's that's the best word I can find for it, because it's like the Native Americans always said. They always called the colonialists crazy white men.
Yeah.
Because they're so devoid of reason and connection. And one of the things, I just watched an interview with Alice Walker. She wrote The Color Purple. Yeah. And she said one of the things, and I posted it on LinkedIn because I felt it was so profound. One of the things that white people are so good at is rendering people lifeless, because at some point they demand that they are right even when they're wrong, that they are smarter even when we know they're not, you know. And this whole system and this whole structure is set up on just these ideas that are completely false. And now people are waking up to the gaslight, and people are waking up to the truth that most of everything that we have been learning have been a complete lie. Our textbooks, our concepts around science, our concepts about, the language, English language, all of it is a fallacy, but we're still operating in it. It's so conflictual all the time, because I think people are like, I know in the whole being of myself, this is not right. How do I get out of this? And that's what I'm helping people do all the day. Every day, I'm trying to help people align how to be in the madness without going mad. How am I know this crap is not true. They can no longer, fool me. I know it's not true. How do I stay sane in the insanity, Trina?
And I just wonder how are children indoctrinated into this thinking of quote unquote supremacy,
Oh,
and
it's
from what
easy.
age
Dang.
and how? And imagine that kid growing up thinking himself or herself superior for no other reason than because they have a different skin color, and then coming up with reality one day when at whatever age, 16, 17, 18, 20, 25, 22. Imagine that reality and this kid's concocted, the education and the dissonance of that kid about everything, the narrative, the education system, their own society, the civilization, everything that their life is based upon just is shattered if they come up against a reality which says, hey, you know what? You just happen to be of a different color, but calm down. You are no superior to me.
There's
So
something so
how is
much
this
deeper.
indoctrination happening? That is what really, because I don't know the system. I don't know how people get this from literally from womb to grave, how is it done? That you produce generations of people thinking themselves superior to others on this planet.
Garry, I would love for you to chime in that, because I know how it is from a Black American perspective, but being a white American male, how do you remember growing up and having that sense that you were already privileged? But you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's a really, really great question, both. And it's not as overt, and this is how supremacy culture works, right? Is ultimately, I never felt like I didn't know I was privileged because I wasn't told. I didn't have context. I didn't know what it's like to understand a Black, brown, disabled, someone else from a different part of the world's perspective, right? Because all I was taught from very young was about Robinson Crusoe and slave trade and the occasional very, very, very whitewashed version of history. Yeah, I had friends, that looked and sounded very different to me, and I got on with them brilliantly. But at no point until even as recent as 4 years ago did I have any idea that the system has been designed for me to succeed without doing anything. And that's as recent as 4 years ago, honestly. So everything about the systems, through education, through work, through government, through politics, it's all designed for people that look and sound like me not to question anything, because that's how the system stays in power. Is because if the folks that look and sound like me don't say anything, it maintains the status quo. But it's not as. But the weird thing is, it's not as malicious from a generational point of view. However, it's deeply, deeply, deeply indoctrinated so that we don't question it, and that's why this is so important. What the three of us are doing now, because we're, with the veil slipping, en masse people can now go, "What do you mean privilege? What do you mean that like different people don't get access to things like I do?" Like I can honestly say, as a Western white male, there is nothing in any part of our upbringing or work life that is proactively saying to us, "Look how the world actually operates." Everything's about keeping us. Everything's about keeping us small. Everything's about keeping us as the controllable unit of production. Basically, keeping us blind. Yeah, the system is designed to
It's
keep.
like you are
keep us
functioning
blind.
within a set up laboratory, not in the real world.
Exactly. It's literally what a brilliant metaphor. It's basically like being a lab rat running around a lab.
Yeah, you're like in a set up laboratory designed for you to feel good, but outside of the lab is mayhem and chaos. So don't go there.
Brilliant metaphor. Brilliant metaphor.
And I will tell you, I have international clients who have said, "Oh, when I moved to America, the immigration people said, stay away from Black people.
Wow.
Stay away from this group. Stay away from this neighborhood." And there's a comedian named Cat Williams who just recently just spilled all this tea on all these people within another sub level of the matrix, which is the media and movies and acting and all that stuff. That's another block to another piece to the puzzle that they use to propagandize, to inoculate, to indoctrinate every single person, including the people who are in process. Because that's how hegemony works. They've got you so deeply asleep that you just don't see it. You just don't see it. And then if you don't see it, you definitely don't feel it, because they teach you at a young age to disconnect from feelings. That's how I think they do it. They tell little girls and little boys, this is your role, this is your place. As long as you do these said things, you'll be accepted. Certain people, no matter what, certain groups are never accepted, but you have to accept that too. Okay? Accept you're not accepted. And then there would be no problem until we get hungry, until we get bored, until we need another person to point the finger at away from ourselves when a problem arises. There's something deeply disturbing about the psyche of a group of people that would globalize the country, the world, and be upset that other people are doing well,
Yeah.
even when they're doing well.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter if they're doing well, you can't do well. And they see it all over the United States.
USA has done that to country after country, the Latin Americas and Africas,
It started
overthrowing
in Britain.
democracy.
It started in British too. In Britain,
Yeah.
British people did it to British people.
Yeah.
Dutch people did it to Dutch people too. It's a class thing that they have constructed in their head. And how dare you live at the same level as me? I'm above you. I'm holier than thou. You cannot come up to my level. And if you try to come up to my level, I'll do something to squash you down. Okay. This is what has been operating for thousands of years. I'm not even going to say hundreds of years, thousands of years. And it's deeply embedded in the psyche that, how can you imagine what it was like? Them going over to Africa and seeing golden palaces, and going to India and seeing all of these beautiful temples and everything. How did they do that? Wait, I'm feeling insecure and jealous about that. They can't have that. I'm the best. This is where we need to start. Where did that come from? Where did the inability to be equal with other people and other nations? You know, I'm both interested and suspicious of the BRICS thing. I just got some more details
Oh,
about how
yeah.
that's supposed
It
to
is very,
work.
very.
I'm you know, I see what I see is the same group of psychopaths from different
It's not going to work.
countries.
It's just another,
Yeah, it's
another nice whitewash. Okay, come, just be there.
yeah, but
Yeah.
they're supposed to take turns yearly, conquering.
See, again,
in
yearly turns at the expense of poor countries.
exactly.
Have a
Exactly.
gala ball, see some, see some exotic places, go back to where you came from.
Yeah, well, they're just, they're all getting together to kick the US in the balls, which I think is warranted. It's time to take it down
It's
a
not
notch.
even happening because half of them are in cahoots
No,
with
I
the
just heard.
people in the US.
Well, in cahoots, and also, why aren't we talking about the World Economic Forum? Why is that always
Why does
never
it
part of the conversation?
Why does it even happen? I mean, it's one of the worst.
It's the worst of the worst, Shana, isn't it? Let's be
Worst
honest.
of the worst. The most pollution creating forum ever. It doesn't even need to happen. Do it on Zoom and get lost.
Yeah, but the thing is that they seem to have their fingers in everything, in every country.
So today, unipolar doesn't really even mean US per se, because the USA people, general people, are homeless, medical insurance-less, jobless, food insecure, education insecure, hungry, cold, desperate, and sliding down the mobility ladder, whatever that means. But they are really desperate. So I think today unipolar really means the top 1% of the globe.
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
Irrespective of geography. Irrespective of geography. And they are all connected. It's Monsanto, Bayer, Gates, Zuckerberg, Musk, and it's like a handful congregating. So the
Are you saying
neoliberal
unipolar
capitalism
or Unilever? Is that the same thing? Because I know that Unilever is something.
No, unipolar, as in the hegemonic power force.
Okay.
So today it's just the 1% of the billionaires. It's not even geographically distributed. It's not as if, okay, India is badly off, but the Americans are doing really well. They are not.
No.
The general American is desperate.
It's really good. It's a really good point, because I want to add to it, and it's not letting us privileged Westerners off the hook, but it is also an important point you're making, which is like literally 1 mile down the road from me.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday, there's a bigger and bigger queue of people going to the food bank.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a queue 2 years ago. There wasn't a queue.
And half the shelves, if I know right, half the shelves in UK, Britain shops are empty because the stock is lacking after Brexit. Half the shelves and half the stores are empty.
Yeah,
It's a lot more volatile for sure.
Some brilliant
point is,
Trump-like idiot said, "Let's separate
at the end of
from
the
the
day,
rest of
even
everybody."
unipolar has even just kind of extracted itself from countries and become this 1% of the globe on top.
Yeah.
Pulling the strings
It's
and
an
even
important
pulling
point.
the country strings.
Yeah. So, okay. So
I'm sure someone is pulling Biden's string.
We pointed out a lot of problems. Let's talk a little bit about solutions for the next 5 minutes.
Yep.
Because I think everybody is fully aware of what the problems are. What would be your solution? Garry, what would be your solution?
I think you started this beautiful exploration around letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's my number one invitation to people, is actually let go of as much stuff, let go of the belief that you'll be okay when, next job, fill in the blank, next job, next house, next pay rise. Not saying we don't have to survive within the system. I know that a lot of us do. But point being, you are already enough, and practice feeling at a bodily level below the neck that you're already enough, and it'll be amazing what might open up for people. Because that for me is one of the biggest barriers. And my biggest growth over the last few years has been coming from the inside out of me, and then seeing how the world on the outside looks different from that place. So that's part of this jigsaw puzzle of pluriversality. Is that a real word? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds good.
They made up a whole language. We can make up our own.
We can make stuff up. There you go. Pluriversality. There you go.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
How about you, Shahana?
Just to pick up where you left off, Garry, with pluriversality, my favorite wording, which was, I think the post-hegemony world is already here. That world building is happening. It's happening on the streets with people marching. It's happening through the different movements all over the globe, and it is happening for at least more than a decade, whether it was Occupy Wall Street, whether it was anti-CAA in India, whether it was the farmers' protest, whether it was the protests around Extinction Rebellion. All of these pockets of people arising spontaneously, organically, in contradiction to the dominant narrative, have already been sowing the seeds of a very different narrative, or sets of narratives coming up together. They seem disparate and discrete. The causes and the reasons might be different, but they are really connected at a much deeper and more profound level. Because if we look at it at a zoom out and see, they are all pointing towards a post-growth, beyond anthropocentric, beyond hegemony, a world of community and communication, one that is not dictatorial but dialogic, one that is not oppressive but opens up, expansive, and one that is definitely not hegemonic and very, very pluriversal, multiversal, threaded together of different strands and narratives. And that is already happening. I just pray and hope that it happens faster, sooner, and that I can do my bit to speed it on its way. Godspeed.
Yes. And when I hear you talk about all of these entities coming together spontaneously and collaboratively, I think of all of the individuals that had to wake up to take those steps.
Yeah.
To have to say, on an individual level, enough.
Yeah.
And I need to find like people to do this with me, because it has to be done. And I liken it to all of the movements for equal rights and civil rights in the United States. It always took it took everybody coming together to do that, but it was also a resounding resolve of an individual to say, I've had enough of this shit.
Yeah.
Okay. I've had enough, because not because of my own personal special interest, but because of the collective need. We're not going to get better. The world needs to get better. And it's not going to happen if somebody doesn't take a stand.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think the answer is that. I think the answer is people need to start getting really honest with themselves. And that can be very difficult when you've got all of this external messaging telling you things. Just how everything in the hegemonic structures work. I had a very interesting debate with a gentleman about domestic violence, and there is this knee-jerk response by men to this very day to defend manhood, even when it comes to brutalization and violence towards women and oppression towards women. And my question is always, if it's not you, then why are you fighting so hard for it? You're telling me that's not how you feel, but you feel that women, misandry, blah, blah, blah. And I always say, if it wasn't you, and if you feel this way, you wouldn't be fighting me right now. So some part of you, it is you, and you're defending that part of you. So let's get honest. You need to get honest with yourself. You see some benefit to the structures. You see some benefit to having, you see some power. There's some insecurity that you feel if that is taken away from you. You know? So you can't be on both sides. You can't be both sides of the fence when it comes to oppression. You can't. You've got to not want it or want it. You know?
Yep.
And you can't explain away, no matter how much you want to try, your desire to want it. You can't justify it. There's something broken that you need to fix if it's okay for you to beat, oppress another person. So let's start with that. So I said there are a lot of covert narcissists out there still. And I think that I don't know if you know what a covert narcissist is, but they're probably the worst one, because they're the ones that are looking like the good guys or the good girls. Listen, I don't want to take women out of it too, because there are some. And they're kumbaya in the street, but behind closed doors, they're doing exactly the opposite of that and have zero awareness of themselves. So I think that the only answer is for people to get deeply self-aware.
Feels like a good note to end on, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. There are a few dozen of those between us. But
I really appreciate Trina, how you like bringing us towards the sort of what can we do as well. I think it's a really nice angle for us to build on going forward, I think.
Yeah.
The post-hegemony.
Post-hegemony.
Post-hegemony, exactly.
That's nice.
Post-hegemony.
Let's accept it's here, and how do we build our capabilities to hold that?
Can you believe it? In 20 episodes, this is Hegemony Revealed number 20. It looks like we need to upgrade to post-hegemony. Maybe that's literally number 21.
Yes.
It's post-hegemony.
Maybe.
Post-hegemony. Yeah, why not? Why not?
So now we are preparing, building our capacity.
We've revealed it.
What Trina said about self-awareness and being honest. You deconstruct, and now we reconstruct a different world for which we need to build and create capacities, self-awareness, honesty, ability to look within,
Mm-hmm.
ability to hold ourselves first and see through the trauma and understand where the dissonance and the generational trauma can lead us unless we heal it.
Oh my
Choose one.
God.
Choose one. I'd love for each of us to go to choose.
Oh, she's gone. Oops. What
Trina,
happened?
you had it. Trina had us on tenterhooks. I don't want to fill in the gap, Shahana. I don't want to
Nope.
fill in the gaps.
No, she kind of left us hanging. I hope she comes back. Oh dear.
Let's give. I'm guessing. I don't know if Trina's gone for another call, but I'm guessing it was going to be. Let's all think of a post. Oh,
She's coming?
yes.
I'm back. I'm back.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was
Okay, we were going to second guess.
No, no. Hegemony. No, okay. So choose one area that we're the most passionate about. I know that mine is going to be mental health. And let's take one aspect of that and see how we can rework it out of the hegemonic sphere as it is now.
How would it look if it was in a world that was post-hegemonic? How would we
Okay.
look at mental health? How would we look at trauma? How
Exactly.
would we look at relationships? How would we look at the planet?
Yes. So let's do that. I'm going to do that with the mental health piece. Okay. And of each week, I'd like for us to take the area where we're the most passionate about.
Yep.
And
That sounds like a wonderful plan.
Yeah, just to take Hegemony Revealed into post Hegemony Revealed, because we have revealed all the problems. We know what they are. I think everybody knows what they are, but we are collectively, globally looking for solutions. Let's start getting people on with active solutions and ways of being and ways of doing in these particular areas. And we can choose it however we feel. I know mental health and mental well-being is my, to me, is the root of everything. But how does that trickle into the what am I thinking of the word, ecology? How does that work into resources? Garry, how do we?
I love this because I can really feel this energy of like taking a lead each and then using collective intelligence to rework some different imaginings around these different topics.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I also want to honor, and I think this is beautiful, Shahana and Trina and everybody out there, is one of my tensions over the last couple of years, and I'm conscious of time, is you can do this work that we're now going to without doing the groundwork, right? That is the Western white spirituality, right? Which is as long as I sit here with my arms crossed and I'm mindful, like I'm doing what I can in my context, and that's fine, no judgment. However, if you can include the bit that we've done in the first 20 episodes whilst you do that work, you're going to create new worlds, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. So let's do that, because that, I know we talked about it before, and then we got into our space, and sometimes we just let the flow go, and I love that too. But I would love Hegemony Revealed to be so productive that people can't ignore what we're doing, because we're not just sitting and bitching and moaning and bringing up the same talking points as everybody else, because we all know this stuff to be true now. I want to be solution based now.
I love that. Post hegemony. What will everything look like in this new world?
Yes.
This new world is here, and we have to prepare ourselves.
Yes.
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 We set off in the morning, so we have to get ready now.
I'm so excited. Are you both in agreement that we literally change episode 21 to post hegemony?
Yeah,
I think
why not?
because I think the energy of the words of the title are also important.
Yes,
Sort of,
absolutely.
it carries something, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Post hegemony revealed. Yes. Let's do it.
On that bombshell, probably. What a horrible war metaphor to finish on. On that beautiful emerging seed, do we call it a day?
Yes.
Yep.
Let's call it a day.
Till we meet again.
See you in 2
Till
weeks.
we meet again, everyone, with
Bye-bye.
post-hegemony revealed.
Post hegemony
Yes.
revealed. Bye.